The East Hall is the project that we're talking about where the case was discussed, and that project was originally constructed in 1929. In 1987, East Hall was designated as a National Historic Landmark, was put on the National Register of Historic Places. 1992, the New Jersey Sports and Exposition Authority entered into a 35-year lease with the Atlantic County Investment Authority to lease the property, to sublease the property from that authority. In 1998, the Sports and Exposition Authority began renovation on East Hall. In June of 2000, the historic Boardwalk Hall, which is referenced in your box, HBH, was formed with NJSEA as the sole member. In September 2000, an affiliate of Pitney Bowes was admitted as the tax credit investor into Historic Boardwalk Hall, LLC, with a 99.9% ownership interest. At that same time, there was a sublease agreement entered into where the Sports Authority entered into sublease the space to Historic Boardwalk Hall. So Historic Boardwalk Hall was the sublessee, leasing the space, leasing the property from New Jersey Sports Authority, who was leasing it from the actual owner of the property. Again, at the same time, when all this transpired, the transaction was entered into, option and contracts were entered into, and those were basically the put and call arrangement between the tax credit investor and the managing member. There, the tax credit investor at that same time put its first of 4 capital contributions into the project. That first installment was the $650,000 contribution it made. Jumping ahead a few months to December of 2000, their second installment came due, and that was $3.66 million. On the 2000 tax return for HBH, $38.8 million of QREs were allocated to the investor, which generated a $7.7 million historic tax credit that the investor earned at that point in time. Jump ahead again to January 2001. Their next installment, the tax credit installment of their capital was due, and that was $3.4 million. On the 2001 tax return, another allocation of QREs were made to the tax credit investor. That was $68.8 million, and that yielded $13.7 million in historic tax credits. Jumping ahead to October 2002, their third installment, the investor's third installment, was due and paid, and that was $10.4 million. And the final amount of QREs were incurred during 2002, and those were allocated on the 2002 tax return for HBH, which yielded $254,000 in historic credits. So cumulatively, over those 3 years, 2000, 2001, and 2002, there was $109 million of QREs. It yielded around $21.8 million of historic tax credits that the tax credit investor ultimately realized. And their final installment, their fourth installment, was made after all conditions in the operating agreement were satisfied, and that was made in February 2004, and that was for about $1.2 million. As of February 2004, all their capital has been contributed to HBH. Jump ahead 3 years, and the IRS issues final partnership administrative adjustment as a result of its audit that took place, in which it denied that the credits were appropriately allocated to the tax credit investor. They said that their case was that they were not a partner in it, and so those credits would be reallocated to the managing member. And that was not a good result for the partnership and the investor. In January 2000, so as a result of that, the tax credit entity, HBH, filed an appeal with the U.S. Tax Court, and in January 2011, the U.S. Tax Court ruled in favor of HBH and allowed for the allocation of the credits. Now we move ahead, and as a result of that ruling, the IRS appealed the case to the U.S. Third Circuit Court of Appeals, and in August 2012, they overturned the tax court's ruling and agreed with the IRS.